Can everybody hear me? First thing I want to say is that when I tweeted, I was very proud of myself for tweeting this event yesterday, that a friend of mine, who's now a journalism professor at the University of Maryland, saw it and immediately emailed me, and she said, "Wow, you get to interview Barbara Ehrenreich?" So I know that a lot of you have come here to hear Barbara talk today, feel the same way about her. She has an amazingly wide-ranging mind. If you've read any of her work, you know that. She's written about social class, feminism, low-wage workers, many other things. And now she's writing about the meaning of it all. I assume you've seen her book, Living with a Wild God. I want to start by asking her about the photo on the back. Now, I don't know if you can see it from here, but it's a photo of her at the age of 18. Do you remember where this photo was taken?
I was at college, and it was taken, just by a friend in a room. And I thought it would be, this is principalmatch.com operates on get a younger photo of yourself out there.
So, you talk about this book as being a quest, and it's easy to just, understand it as a quest for the meaning of it all, the quest for, whether there is a God, whether there is, a larger other. But the way I read it, it's also a quest for you at this point in your life to understand yourself at a younger point in your life.
Well, yeah, to understand some things that happened to me, right?
So talk to me a little bit about yourself as a teenage girl, which you write about a fair amount in the book.
If there's a primary source for this book, and that is the journal I kept as an adolescent. It's got nothing gossipy or nothing to speak of. There's nothing about high school. It's about this metaphysical quest, which started when I was 12.
And this is a journal, let's go back again for a moment. This is a journal that you came across at a particular point in your life and got interested in again.
Yes, I knew it was there because I've been carrying this big folder full of papers. Each entry is on a different paper, and I knew it was with me through so many moves. I had somehow managed to bring this along. I knew kind of what was in it, but I had never been inspired to look at it until 2001, when I was, packing up my papers before a university library that was going to store them somewhere, air-conditioned. And 2, I was being treated for breast cancer. So that, there's your life, all these papers spread out. And yeah, it might not last so long, this life. And so I kind of promised myself I would get back to it and read it, because I knew, that it was calling to me in some way.
So when you did get back to it and read it, just talk to us a little bit about what you first found, encountered, remembered when you started reading what you'd written between the ages of, 12 and 17-ish?
You mean about what the first entries of the journal were? Well, I have originally conceived this as typing practice. And I did not want to take a typing class that was required for all girls. Interesting. And I said, no. Anything with all girls is going to be trouble, So I'll do this by myself. But how do I do it? So I said, well, I'll just write down anything that comes to mind. And after a while, it gets a little more systematic. I go back to those questions I had framed when I was 12, which is, what's going on here? What is this? We live, we die, poof, it's over. What's all this about? And I don't think that is so unusual to me, that series of questions. One of my granddaughters, a couple of years ago when she was only 5, turned to me in her car seat, and said, "Grandma, why are we alive?" And I go, whoa, there it is. I'll get back to you on that. I'm working on that. I think many people, especially when you're younger, not always. These questions come up. I mean, I remember Tony Soprano's son, Anthony Jr. Remember when he went into his big philosophical phase and he started reading the philosopher he called Nietzsche? You know, that was me. So it's not that unusual. I think what is more unusual is that I didn't ever totally grow up. You know, we're supposed to put those things behind us at a certain age. All those big questions. We're supposed to say, okay, I accept it. I'm going to go out there and earn a living and pay a mortgage. The things that pay my student debt. Let's be up to date here. And it never went away.
So here you are in the middle of your life. You've come across these typings, these writings that are asking the big philosophical questions, and you decide that you need to engage that material again. Engage it in the way that you've engaged it in this book.
Yes, and why?
And why?
I think part of it is this, that what the journal records, or not really records, evades, because I was afraid to write it down even, was a series of unusual experiences, mental experiences, that are very, very hard to talk about at all. Because, well, I'll tell you, when I started writing this book, I knew I was actually going to work on this. I went out to lunch with my son at a dim sum place in L.A., and he's a writer, and I said, I'm writing about something that happened to me. And he looked at me, really kind of alarmed. And I said, when I was 17. And he looked even more alarmed. And I said, I guess it was a mystical experience. And he said, oh, well, naturally, So it's really hard to say those words, and I don't even know if they are the right words.
What's so hard about saying those words?
I am a rationalist to the core. I am an atheist. I was raised as an atheist. I got a PhD in cell biology. I mean, I'm so hardcore that the book I wrote published before this one was an attack on positive thinking. How positive thinking is undermining America. So, and that includes attacks on the therapeutic use of teddy bears. The whole word spirituality kind of creeps me out.
And yet here you are with a whole book that does address this idea of mystical experience. And when you say mystical experience, what does that term encompass for you? And then tell us specifically about your own.
Well, I think it's a word that shows how limited our vocabulary is. That mystical and spiritual refer to things that we don't have words for. And instead of having the words, we throw out those words. Or we may say God, if we are a religious person. But it's an acknowledgement that there is a realm that transcends words of our experience. And I cannot describe the experience too much in words, except to say that. It was pretty... there was nothing, there were sort of unusual things going on in my life, and I was very tired and probably hypoglycemic and all those things that the Plains Indians used to induce visions. And I was in a strange place in the mountains, and then later that day in the desert.
In the beautifully named Lone Pine.
Yes, yeah. And suddenly, the only way I have found in all these decades to put it is that the world flamed into life. I was overwhelmed in every way.
So you're seeing the desert in flames.
Well, it was actually more like the mountains, and then later that day we got to the desert. Yeah.